Have you ever noticed that the more you try to stop your thoughts, what if the real secret to a peaceful mind isn't about fighting your thoughts at all, but about learning something surprisingly simple that most people ignore every day? This is the story of a young man who traveled far looking for peace, only to discover that the answer had been with him the entire time. In a quiet town surrounded by tall hills and deep forests lived a young man named Adrian. He was 23 years old, full of dreams, but his mind never rested. From the moment he woke up in the morning until late at night, his thoughts ran endlessly. Sometimes he thought about mistakes he had made years ago. Small moments from the past kept returning to his mind like echoes in an empty room. He would replay old conversations and wonder if he had said the wrong thing. At other times, he worried about the future, about money, success, relationships, and whether his life would turn out the way he hoped. Because of this constant thinking, Adrian felt exhausted. Even when nothing was wrong around him, his mind felt heavy. He struggled to sleep at night because his thoughts refused to slow down. While other people laughed and enjoyed simple moments, Adrian often felt distant, as if his mind was always somewhere else. Many times he tried to calm himself. He read books, listened to advice, and even tried to distract himself with work. But no matter what he did, the storm inside his head continued. One afternoon, while sitting alone near the town market, Adrian overheard two travelers speaking about a man who lived high in the mountains. They said the man had once been a respected teacher in a large city. For many years, he had studied the human mind and helped people understand their thoughts and emotions. Later in life, the teacher had left the noisy city and moved to a quiet mountain village. There he lived a simple life surrounded by trees, rivers, and fresh air. Occasionally, people traveled long distances to seek his guidance. The travelers spoke about him with deep respect. They said that many people returned from meeting him with calmer minds and clearer hearts. Adrian listened carefully. Something inside him felt hopeful for the first time in months. That night he could not stop thinking about the old teacher. A quiet voice inside him said that perhaps this man might understand what he was going through. After a few days of thinking, Adrian made a decision. He packed a small bag, said goodbye to his family, and began the long journey toward the mountains. The road was not easy. Some days he walked under the hot sun. Other days he climbed steep paths surrounded by tall trees. His legs became tired and his feet sore, but he kept moving forward. During the journey, his mind was still full of thoughts, but now there was also curiosity. He wondered what the old teacher would say to him. Would the man truly be able to help him find peace? After several days of travel, Adrian finally reached the small mountain village. The place felt different from the busy towns he knew. The air was fresh, the wind gentle, and the sounds of nature filled the quiet spaces. Near the edge of the village stood a small wooden house covered with climbing plants and flowers. Birds rested on the roof, and a narrow path led to the front door. Sitting outside on a simple chair was an elderly man with silver hair and calm eyes. His posture was relaxed, and his face carried a peaceful expression that Adrian had rarely seen in anyone before. Adrian approached respectfully and greeted him. The old man slowly opened his eyes and looked at the young traveler with a warm smile. Adrian spoke honestly. He explained how his thoughts never stopped, how he constantly worried about the past and the future, and how tired he felt because of it. The old man listened quietly without interrupting. When Adrian finished speaking, there was a moment of silence. Then the teacher stood up and said gently, "Come with me. I want to show you something." He led Adrian to a small open area beside the house where a wooden table stood. On the table was a clear bowl of water. The old man picked up a glass and filled it completely with water until it reached the very top. The surface was so full that even the smallest movement could cause it to spill. He handed the glass to Adrian. "Take this glass," the teacher said calmly, "and walk through the village until You reach the large oak tree at the far end of the road. Then come back here. But there is one condition. Adrian waited. You must not spill even a single drop of water. Adrian looked at the glass carefully. The task seemed simple at first, but the water was filled so high that even a slight shake could cause it to overflow. Still, he nodded and began walking. The village path was lively. Children were running and playing games. Shopkeepers were talking loudly with customers. A group of musicians nearby were playing cheerful music. Dogs barked, carts rolled across the road, and people moved in every direction. But Adrian hardly noticed any of it. His eyes remained fixed on the glass in his hands. Every step had to be slow and steady. He adjusted his breathing and focused completely on keeping the water from spilling. If his hand moved too quickly, the water would fall. If his attention wandered, he could lose balance. So he walked carefully, step by step, fully aware of every movement. When he finally reached the large oak tree, he turned around and walked back the same way with the same careful focus. After some time, he arrived again at the teacher's house. He looked at the glass. Not a single drop had fallen. Adrian felt proud and relieved. "I did it," he said happily. The old man nodded with approval. Then he asked a simple question. "Tell me," he said, "while you were walking through the village, did you see the musicians playing music near the bakery?" Adrian blinked in surprise. "No, I didn't." The teacher continued. "Did you notice the children racing along the road? Or the two dogs chasing each other near the well?" Adrian shook his head again. "I didn't see them either." The old man smiled gently. "And did you hear the loud laughter coming from the cafe near the market?" Adrian thought for a moment. "No, I was too focused on the glass." The teacher nodded slowly. "That is exactly what I wanted you to understand." Adrian looked confused but curious. The old man explained calmly. "When you were carrying the glass, your attention stayed completely on one thing. Your mind was not thinking about yesterday's mistakes or tomorrow's worries. You were simply aware of what you were doing in that moment." Adrian listened carefully. For those few minutes, the teacher continued, your mind was quiet. Not because the world became silent, but because your attention stayed in the present moment. The words slowly began to make sense. The teacher pointed toward the mountains surrounding the village. Most people suffer not because life is always difficult, but because their minds are constantly traveling through time. They regret what has already passed and fear what has not yet happened. He paused before speaking again. But peace is not found in the past or the future. Peace exists only in the present moment. Adrian remembered how calm he had felt while carrying the glass. During that short walk, his mind had not been racing with thoughts. He had simply been there, walking, breathing, and focusing. The teacher smiled as he saw understanding appear in Adrian's eyes. "You searched for peace in many places," the old man said softly. "But the truth is that peace was always available to you. You only needed to bring your attention back to the moment you are living right now." The wind moved gently through the trees as the sun began to lower behind the mountains. Adrian stood quietly, thinking about everything he had learned. For the first time in a long while, his mind felt lighter. Not because his problems had disappeared, but because he realized something powerful. He did not have to carry the weight of the past or the fear of the future every moment of his life. He could return his attention to the present whenever his mind began to wander. As evening approached, Adrian thanked the teacher with deep gratitude. He started the journey back home, walking down the same mountain paths he had climbed before. But this time something inside him had changed. The sound of the wind felt clearer. The colors of the sky looked brighter. The rhythm of his steps felt calm and steady. His thoughts still appeared from time to time, but now he knew that he did not have to chase every one of them. Whenever his mind began to wander too far, He simply brought his attention back to the moment he was living. And slowly, step by step, the storm inside his mind began to fade.